So what's the best way then to avoid writing a stereotypical character that doesn't have that life outside of the page? What should we avoid? To avoid stereotypes.
So stereotypes to me is just bad writing. It's just lazy. And I would say just remember that characters are people. Even if you're writing non-human characters, they still need to connect with people on an emotional level. So if you're resorting to just tired tropes, or you think you're creating shorthand for what you assume the reader will know, that to me is just lazy. So like I would say to avoid that, one, just think of your characters as people, and people are rarely just one thing. Your characters shouldn't just be one thing either. And be aware of what stereotypes have existed before. In Kidlit, I see a lot of these like 80s John Hughes things just getting recycled over and over again. It's just like, that's so boring for one. And it's just not something that kids experience anymore. Like, they do to an extent, but not like the jocks versus nerds versus getting pushed into lockers. And like, that's just like not a thing. For the most part. And, also that's been done before. So if you're going to write these bullying stories about cliques that don't get along, do something new with those cliques. Don't just give us what has been done a million times before. And don't let your characters be only the one thing that other people have defined for them. Give them inner lives. And I guess just like think of them as, if I knew this person in real life, what types of conversations would they have with their own friends? Who are they to themselves? And, you have your main character kind of assigning these stereotypes usually. I'm trying to think of like a more succinct way to say this. So if you have your narrator as, I hate this character because blank, give a reason why that one specific character would hate that other specific character. Don't just say it's because she is popular or she is blank. And the shorthand for like blonde and like popular is very weird and dated to me. Like those are the types of stereotypes I mean. Like, we can get into racial stereotypes as well, which is just like, don't. Like that is like, to me, it's just like the laziest form of writing of like, well, here's the thing that everybody knows. And usually in that case, everybody means white or straight. So if that's your everybody, kind of take a step back and look outside yourself of like, okay, if someone like this character was reading this book, what would they think about my portrayal of them? And then just sort of work backwards from that. Don't make assumptions about your audience.
Gotcha. So if I want to write about a character that's not a heterosexual white male, what are the best ways for me to make sure that I'm being true to that character that's outside of myself? What are the best? Do you have what are the cultural readers that you might recommend?
Yeah, I mean they're sensitivity readers, but that to me is just another word for editors who just happen to be from that background. I always tell writers, ask yourself why you want to write that story about that character. Why make that character your main character? And think about why you really feel like it is your story to tell. If you want to do it anyway, I do think that people can write whatever they want to write, but really, like when you're writing outside of your experience like that, and even if it's just like you writing a white heterosexual female character, that's still not your experience. So I always just tell writers, if that is who you want to write, put in the work. One, ask yourself why, and should you do that? Is it your story to tell? If you go for it anyway, I hope you're reading a bunch of authors who share that background. I hope you're hiring sensitivity readers. I hope you are getting, not just hiring outside, like for editorial, but just like, who are the people in your life from that background? Is it nobody? Then maybe don't write their story. Really just put in the work and be aware that, you are going to possibly, because of the way traditional publishing works, take someone's spot. There's not a whole lot of books that are published throughout the year, and that still exists of, we can't have too many similar stories. And, why are you telling this story versus an author of that same background telling that story who possibly should be getting published? I would just say do the work, be sensitive, be respectful, and again, don't stereotype, and make sure you have just wisdom and knowledge at the same time about why you want to write that story.